Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Women in Retail Talks. Today's conversation is with Jan Singer, former CEO of Spanx and soon-to-be CEO of Victoria's Secret, and Melissa Campanelli, co-founder of the Women in Retail Leadership Circle. Listen in as they discuss Jan's career, moving on from mistakes, her new role as CEO of Victoria's Secret, and Bravo binge watching. Enjoy.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Women in Retail Talks. I'm Melissa Campanelli, and I'm so excited that joining me today is Jan Singer, who is recently named the CEO of Victoria's Secret. And today we're going to be discussing Jan's career and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for joining me today, Jan. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Melissa. Thanks for asking. Super excited to be here.
Great. So I know that you're starting as a CEO of Victoria's Secret in September, but you held many other roles, including the CEO of Spanx. You had some positions at Nike, the corporate VP of Global Apparel and of Global Footwear there, which is great. So I'd love to have our audience just learn a little bit about your career trajectory and sort of how you ended up in retail. I think that would be really interesting for our listeners.
Yeah. I mean, I'll try to keep it as brief as I can. You know, at the beginning of the story is that I was a psych major, a psychology major with a business minor in Ithaca College. So, you know, I wasn't quite sure how that would all serve me, but I was super fascinated always and have been always fascinated with how people show up. You know, why do we act the way we do? What motivates us? You know, as humans, what causes us to do something or not do something? It's always been fascinating for me. But I left there, went straight to New York City, always wanted to work in beauty and fashion, and quickly found out that in those days, if you will, I didn't have a network and I didn't have really what people have as internships now. And so every interview I went on, I found in the newspaper and basically came in and was asked to take a typing test and to be a secretary. And I didn't know how to type. And so I quickly took myself to Catherine Gibbs Secretarial School for a month, 4 hours a day, 4 days a week, and, you know, became proficient at typing and a little bit of shorthand, which is so funny. And today I still will challenge anybody to a typing test. I love it. We didn't even know computers were going to be a thing. And so that served me. So from there, I just got into New York and started in a little job in real estate, and there's a long story attached to it, but I was making copies all day long and ended up crossing paths with people in the beauty industry and fashion, and one of them led me to Chanel. And from there, I worked in PR at Chanel for a while in the beauty side, went over to the editorial side and worked for Bonnie Fuller and Donald Robertson at YM at the time, called Young and Modern. Cool. Loved it because as an awkward 13-year-old, I will do anything in my entire existence here to make that time for anybody else easy. So I was a beauty and fitness advice, you know, editorial director. Launched a lot of great careers were launched at that book. You know, it was an entree for photographers and for new models and actresses, and it was a really exciting time to work with a talent like Donald and Bonnie, and they were great. But from there, what I really was able to do is see what the industry was up to, because they all pitched us every day on stories and beauty. And there was really a lot of energy around American fashion at Calvin Klein. And a guy named Michael McAdam hired me over at Calvin to do global communications. This is the first time I took a global position and was able to travel around the world and get to know consumers around the world and really understand what a global business felt, looked, and operated like. Led up the communications between the Unilever parent company and Calvin Klein Inc. in this job. We did a lot of great launches, innovative marketing, so fun. And from there, saw the bubblings around Italian fashion, was part of, I'd call it an incubator, a new business development team at Prada, and launched their beauty. And then from Prada, 9/11 had happened, and I honestly was single, and the guy I was dating was in Boston, and I moved home to Boston, Massachusetts, and wanted to continue working in marketing, but took a job at Reebok because I'm a bit of a fitness sports person, was teaching aerobics and spinning at the time.
Wow.
And I know spinning, the original SoulCycle, went to Boston to be the GM of women's for Reebok. They were kind of feeling a resurgence there, and was for the first time heading up product creation and marketing. And that was a steep learning curve because athletic footwear is pretty technical. But loved it. And then got a call from Nike. And, Nike had no idea where Beaverton, Oregon was. I had never lived on the West Coast, but the guy I was dating, my now husband, and I were game, and we left and went there. And I was a footwear merchant for Global Footwear and had no direct reports and no budget, frankly, and was happy about that. Quickly got myself acclimated and so loved the culture and the knowledge and, frankly, just the ethics of Nike, just tremendous. And was given an opportunity to lead women's footwear first, so that's design, development, innovation, merchandising at the time, really all the functions to bring footwear creation together for women. And then was given the opportunity to run sportswear footwear, which is half of the business, and then ultimately given the chance to run all of Nike footwear, which was such a blessing and a gift and a complete honor, especially as a woman and especially as an outsider, if you will, at the time to Nike. Had a great run at that and had a great time, and still I'm very close to the team that I led there, and then was given the opportunity to run Nike Apparel just as they were getting ready to invest in that as a growth driver. So moved over to the apparel side and had, giant shoes to fill when Mindy Grossman was there and Jill Stanton, who are tremendous leaders. Got in there, reset the team, really got after the fundamentals of apparel creation, and, the results are now in the books. I mean, the apparel business and athletic is tremendous for Nike, and I'd like to think the team that was there had a lot to do with it, as well as the team that's there now, of course. But then from there, it had been 10 years at Nike and 10 years in Oregon, and my family is on the East Coast, my parents and my husband's family. And, the phone was ringing, and there were tremendous jobs, and there always are tremendous opportunities out there. But it was a chance, a lot of CEO jobs are kind of out there. And honestly, my husband was the one that said, you should give this a go. You should really give it a go. And I thought, well, if I'm going to give a CEO role a go, I'd like to do it quietly at a private company in a smaller city and see if I can do this and if I like it and what this will be. And that led me to Spanx. So that was the last 2 years, and gosh, what a great opportunity as well to build a world-class team. Most proud of the team I built there, and the products that are in the market right now are actually setting a new standard for the brand, and proud of that, and proud of supporting women and being back in a women's business. But as things do happen, Victoria's Secret called, and the stars all lined up, and I'm on my way. So that's that whole story.
Wow, great. Well, it sounds like you had such a varied background. I didn't realize that you had so much background in the editorial space and in fashion, high fashion. And I also love the fact that you kind of followed your gut, did things that you wanted to do with your husband and what you felt right, after 9/11. So those are some great lessons for folks, I think. Kind of go with your heart, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say the one big lesson there, and it's a huge lesson. I was 39 years old, and I wasn't married, and I was really, loving and in love with this guy, and I was terrified for weeks. I remember Nike calling me and me taking the interviews over the phone, and finally they want me to come out and do this interview, and I did it. I didn't really share all of that with him at the time, and so I was terrified that he would say, good luck to you, and I would have to choose between the career and the guy. But in fact, he said, that's amazing, let's go. And so You do have to be authentic to who you are, and you have to be transparent, because you just never know what, the reaction will be. And if you never ask, you'll never get. And so he was, and please, when you pick a partner for life, you have to pick that person who's going to be that kind of partner.
Yeah. Great. So we talked a lot about your successes, but I think it's always interesting to hear about how leaders maybe fail somehow in their industry. I mean, we've been hearing a lot in the women's groups and stuff about failing forward, or how something where you failed, but it really wasn't a fail. It actually ended up being a win in the long run. Can you kind of think of anything that would illustrate that a little bit?
Gosh, there's so many. I think when you're in product creation or in retail, I mean, you're moving so fast and you're making calls that are both art and science. And I don't care how much data you have. There's an element of gut and there's an element of timing. So you'll have some wins, but you'll absolutely have, losses and losses and failures. And failure sounds so hard, doesn't it? Like failure. But frankly,
right.
If you're not having some hits or misses, if you're not having the misses, you're really not pushing the brand or yourself or your team to their highest potential. And I think what's important is operating at your highest potential, because you never want to have your regrets. You never want to get to the edge and say, I'm going to walk away from the edge, versus jumping and saying, even if I, can't fly here, I will have jumped and I will have tried. That feels so much better than the regret of, gosh, I never took that leap and I regret it. That's something you can't get back. So if you're not failing, if you want to use the word failing, or if you're not missing, or something doesn't sell, you're actually not pushing the envelope. And the job of a great retailer or a merchant or a product person is to lead the consumer. Hear their voice, but have a vision. And so in doing that, you have to take risks. You have to bring them to a level of something they didn't know they needed. Otherwise, there's a famous saying from Ford about them asking for faster horses versus a car, right? And so there's millions of examples, whether it's a product that we thought was going to, really track and perform and didn't, whether it was a hire that I made, me personally or my team, that didn't pan out to be, what we wanted, or it was what we wanted but not what we needed, whether it was a job that I, thought was going to be one thing and ended up being another. The failure comes when you just say, this is a failure, poor me, and go, crawl up in a ball somewhere and, really run it in your mind over and over. That's failure. But recovery is the key. It's risk and recovery constantly. Recovery is the key. So the person wasn't exactly who you thought. Fine. Who are they? And what can you do to get their best self into your organization? So the job wasn't exactly in the space you thought it would be when you joined. Okay, so what now what? What is working? What can you optimize? What can you leverage? There will absolutely, guaranteed, be absolutely no perfects in this world. There aren't.
Right.
So plan on something failing, if you want to use the word. Failing to me is when the person can't recover. But there will be misses, and there will be things that didn't work, and that is actually energizing to me, because there will be things within that I will have learned, and things that are working that I'm going to press the accelerator on. So specific examples can be, there's so many. It can be a shoe that we did. It can be, again, a person. It can be, me not giving the right coaching in the moment, me not hearing the right coaching in the moment, a business not being what I thought it was going to be and then being something different, more better or different. All of those things are up for grabs. But What is for sure is that none of it will be absolutely perfect.
Exactly. And you said the key is recovering from it. It's not a fail if you can get over it and take something from it.
You've got to. And sometimes the recovery, look, I always say in your career, it's not going to be like if you ever get fired. You'll get fired. It's going to happen. It may happen twice, could happen more than once. But just kind of get that in your head and think about, if that happens, what's your B plan? Always have a B plan, because it's not a reflection necessarily on your capability or your talent. It can be a reflection on the economy, can be a reflection of the business needs at the time, can be a reflection of a mistake that you made that the business couldn't recover from or wouldn't recover from. It doesn't matter. It could be chemistry. But you have to not live in fear of that. You have to live in the reality that these failures or issues or misses happen, and you have to be able to literally, sometimes hour by hour, move forward, even if that just means get out of bed the next day and make a phone call. That's all, But that's important, because it's a toolbox everyone should have.
Yeah, definitely. I think more and more people are learning to have it too, so that's good. So a couple more quick questions. You talked a little bit about earlier about leading, and you had some mentors. Could you just talk a little bit about your leadership style and maybe offer some leadership tips to them?
Yeah, sure. I think I believe in a few things. I believe in transparency. I think it builds a level of authenticity and trust, teamwork. I mean, I'm by nature super transparent. I'm a middle child. I have brothers. I like people to have all the information. I like to have the information. I'm super curious. They would call me nosy, my brothers, but I'm curious. And I think that in the past, maybe in former generations, it might not have served people as leaders. You know, there was a certain level of gravitas that had to happen, and veneering that worked for the men and leaders at that time. But I think right now, with a lot more diversity at the table, it requires a lot more transparency to really help people understand what you're saying. For you to understand what they're saying, you got to really break down the barriers. And if you don't do that, you're missing out on potential diverse points of view, which lead to innovation. So I think being more transparent than not is serving leaders today. It plays to something I believe in, and it's it's the only authentic way I know how to show up. You know, I think that if you try too hard to be something you're not in life, you'll always default back to who you naturally are. And so be yourself and be authentic and be agile to be able to meet people of different opinions, backgrounds, and thoughts at the table exactly where they are. So I'd say transparency with authenticity are two big things with me. High integrity. I will always err on the side of high integrity, doing what's right for the business, for the team, for the consumer. I mean, if you give up your integrity, you're finished. I don't care how many numbers you deliver in the right column, but it has to be done with integrity. So I think that's it. I lead with a bias for action. I think that the world is moving really fast, and I think that you have to be able to keep pace, but I also think that has to be balanced with thoughtfulness and a bit of processing because so much is moving so fast. So those are important leadership traits that I like to bring to the table. And a little fun. I believe in that as well. Energy, yeah.
And in terms of hiring, I mean, when you're meeting a candidate, is there something that particularly impresses you or that you don't like? Any red flags? It's always interesting, I think, to hear leaders talk about this.
Well, I loved when I was at Nike. You know, on the East Coast, you are your job a lot of the times. You know, it's such a competitive market. Everybody, especially when you're coming up in the ranks, everybody feels, you know, you're not making any money. Essentially, you're really trying to kill it in New York, in a very hard city, or Boston or Washington in the Northeast, and even Atlanta. And so a lot of times you feel that your identity is tied to your job. I mean, that happens a lot. People ask you, hi, nice to meet you, where do you work? You know, a lot of that. And so it was a little bit of, for me, like deliver or die, because there were so many people who wanted your job. And on the West Coast, I found, and whether that's a West Coast thing or a Nike thing, I don't know, but there was a lot more humility. There was a lot more gratitude present. And it could be on the East Coast too. It just, for me, this is my experience. I think that, you know, I look for people today, no matter where the country or where in the world I'm hiring, that have a sense of humility, who are open to learning, who are super curious, who have a willingness to do what it takes, who don't stand on ceremony, you know, because we're all in this together. These are tough times for retail and for the world. And you got to have your hand on your heart and have a sense of humble pie about coming to work every day because, you know, like we said earlier, things moving fast and changing can affect a lot of our friends and family and our business. So I think I look for humility. I look for capacity. I look for a bias for action. I look for somebody who's transparent and authentic. Things that derail me a bit are pleasers. People who tell me what they think I want to hear. It never works. I can smell it, I can see it, and I get nervous around it because I don't know what the truth is, you know?
Right.
I do really, really well with good news and bad news, and I do terrible with no news. People know that about me. So if you're a pleaser, you tend to not tell me, you know, what the truth is, and that's, I can't operate if I don't know where people's heads are at. So those kind of things I look for, proven results at the right level. I look for people that I can cross-pollinate, maybe somebody who says I'm a career merchant, but they have a real great operating sense and maybe want to take a risk and jump over to, you know, product creation and operations. People who will do that, I love. I've done that. It served me. So a little bit of risk-taking, too.
Wow. It seems like, just as you're talking, it seems like your psychology degree has played a lot in a lot of your leadership and your hiring practices.
Isn't that funny?
You know, even though it's sort of like, oh, you know, you would think, oh, what is he going to do with that? Or, you know, you're just going to become a psychologist. But it seems like it's taken you far in your business world.
Yeah, I mean, if you could tell my dad that would be great. He never understood the degree for some reason. We laugh about it now, but probably the best thing I ever did because I have a natural curiosity about why people show up. Like I said,
Right.
Why are men different than women? You know, why do they make decisions this way and we make decisions that way? Why goes around in my head all day long. And so, it's fascinating to me.
So I know you're gearing up for your new position a couple of months from now. Can you just briefly talk about like what you're most excited about or you're most nervous about or
Yeah.
I
mean, I can't talk too much about it because I honestly don't know much about it. Isn't that funny? But that's kind of the process I'm sitting out. I'm super excited because of the world-class brand that it is. Yep. I'm extremely honored to work for Les. There is, you know, a very small group of, you know, iconic merchants and retailers in the world. I'd like to put him in that group, obviously. I'm in the mode of learning. I'd like to understand what best-in-class looks, feels, and smells like in terms of retail, and I'd like a thought partner in what the future of retail could be, and I think he's the guy. I'm excited about the team. I hear so many great things about the team. I haven't engaged with them yet. I can't until September, but I know of them from others, and I'm excited about them, excited about being still on women's business for women and supporting women with all different kinds of solutions and experiences from Victoria's Secret. And I'm excited about Columbus, Ohio, really excited about that. My family is excited about that.
You're going to be heading to Columbus for that.
Yep. Coming to Columbus in about 2 weeks. And we are, the singers, we have covered a couple parts of the country, and the kids and I, we do well in towns like Columbus who honor and bring community together around local industries and local education. Obviously, Ohio State, Limited Brands, other great companies are out there like Wendy's and NetJets and others that this is a great town, and Les is a great leader of that town. So, super excited.
Great. Yeah, that's awesome, diving into the community. And speaking of family and community, maybe just sort of on an end note, since we've been talking a lot about some heady stuff here, I mean, how do you relax? How do you have fun? What's a good time? What's a good way for you to take a break after all?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the family is obviously first, and you know, it isn't always relaxing for us moms or parents or dads who work, and I have little twins. I have twins, they're 9, they're not so little, but they're small enough. So that keeps me, distracted. I mean, I can't focus on them if I'm focused on work, so I really try to keep it separate, and that is a good way to spend time. Like I said, not always relaxing, but certainly unwinding from work. But I do lots of other things. I walk, I play golf, I snowboard, I needlepoint, I play music. I mean, I do a lot of things that can kind of check me out. I also will zone out on Twitter or even Bravo TV in the middle of the night if I can't sleep, just to give me, there's something about the mindlessness, sorry, Andy Cohen, of reality TV that is relaxing and helps my brain, not spin about work, keeps the gerbils quiet, I guess.
Yep. That is great. Yeah. I can relate to that for sure. Anyway, okay, great, Jen. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy this summer, but I think this turned out great. And thank you so much. And thank you so much also for being a part of our Women in Retail Leadership Summit this spring, which was great. And hope that you have a great time at Victoria's Secret, and we'll talk again.
Thank you. Hey, thank you to you, Melissa, and I just to thank you for bringing together this community and to the community itself. I just can tell you that it's all happening, women helping women and men helping women. It's just taking leadership to a whole new level, so kudos to you and to everybody who's participating. It's working, so thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Women in Retail Talks. Want to learn more about the Women in Retail Leadership Circle? Connect with us on social at WIR Leadership on Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. Have a great day, everyone.